Congratulations to Rob Thomas,
winner of Wise on Weather, the Vicky Straczynski book.
Congratulations. Woohoo!
You're listening to the Author Inside You podcast, a weekly podcast designed to motivate you to finish writing a book, choose a publisher, and have your work build an audience. Keep listening if you're looking to get propelled into the next chapter of your life. And now, it's the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.
Hello, and welcome to the Author Inside You podcast. I'm Matt Rafferty.
And I'm Leah Rafferty.
Joining us today is Hannah Carmack, author of Seven-Sided Spy. Hannah is a recent graduate from Northern Illinois University, and she enjoys volunteer work and spends most of her time with the organization STEM Read, connecting authors and reluctant readers through hands-on STEM activities. And for those of you who don't know, STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math. Welcome, Hannah. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I am so excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you, Hannah. First off, congratulations on your recent graduation. So can I ask you, is your involvement with STEM Reads, did that make you want to become an author?
I would say I was an author basically as soon as I was born.
Wow.
I have been writing my whole life. So, but I would say it was the opposite. Being an author pushed me towards STEM Read because, I mean, it is this wonderful organization where we work with authors hands-on and we work with publishers, but we also are in the field working with teachers and students and outreach. And so being an author has made that experience so much more beneficial in my mind because I'm constantly learning from the authors that I meet and the agents that I work with and the publishers and all of the different connections that I'm making. I apply it as in Northern Illinois University employee who is working for outreach, but I also apply it to Hannah Carmack, the writer who is always trying to learn how to be better and how to improve their trade.
Oh, wonderful. So dual purpose, which is always nice also. So you said you've been writing since you were very young. Can you tell us about your experience?
Oh, yeah. I always go back to my first book award. I was in kindergarten.
Wow.
And I wrote
Wow.
this. Oh, my gosh. No, everyone got one. It was like...
We could have added that to the intro.
Yeah.
Award-winning
Oh, yes,
Hannah Carmack
absolutely.
joins us today.
It was this like poorly self-illustrated, of course, very serious work going on in kindergarten. It was the true story of the three little pigs in which they all got eaten, which is like horrible in retrospect. I grew up with a horror junkie mother, so I watched tons of scary movies as a kid. So I was always rewriting super gruesome, dark, gritty stuff. But no, it was the scariest book in my kindergarten class. So that was my first taste of it, and ever since then I've been constantly working to be better, improve, and write a good book.
Well, I guess right off the bat in school you learned that you were a good writer, so that probably, okay, I know I can do this. I got to keep going. You know, maybe I can win some more awards. So when did you decide that you really wanted to publish a book?
I would say that I got serious about publishing probably my junior year of high school because, I mean, I was writing predominantly throughout school, but I hadn't really taken myself seriously as a writer. And then I got to my first high school creative writing class, and just some of the comments that I got from other students, I had a really encouraging teacher. It really pushed me to take myself more seriously and be like, okay, so this was a fun couple chapters. Now, how do I follow through on this? And so I participated in National Novel Writing Month, and that's when I had my first full draft. And once I had it, I knew I wasn't just going to sit on it. Like, I was not going to be satisfied until I had it in print. And so having a completed manuscript was a big drive.
And how long did it take you to write that?
So for the first draft, it took me that month, apart from the chapter I wrote for the class. But after that, it was on again, off again with my college time and everything. I would work on it a little bit, and then I'd be like, oh my God, statistics is so hard. I can't do anything. And then I'd work on it some more. Then I'd get, oh my gosh, I have to transfer colleges. What am I going to do with my life? And so it was kind of back and forth. But I'd say it took me about 3 or 4 years to write it as a novel. I would say it had been in my head much longer, but from first draft to final draft, it was about 3-ish years.
And in those 3 years, did the plot change, or your characters, or the way you thought things were going to be?
Oh my gosh, yes. It was such a like blatant X-Men ripoff in that first original draft, like to a T. Like, it was not very original. I remember one of the notes I got from someone who had read the first draft was like, there is no essence of romantic relationship in here at all, like inhumanely so. Like there were clearly characters where there were those interactions, but Twilight had just gotten really big. And I was so terrified because I had people who had abnormal powers, and I'm like, if there's romance involved, it's going to be Twilight. And they're like, that's not, every book ever has some variation of love, even if it's just familial love. And that was a huge impact in the following draft after that, where I was like, I guess I shouldn't be afraid to explore these. It's what made it human. And it didn't have that in that initial draft. So that was a huge change.
So did you have any professors look it over? Since you were a college student, it seems like that might be a good resource.
So ironically, I did have my high school creative writing teacher look it over. But in terms of college, I was a notoriously okay poet in college, and a lot of my professors were interested in my poetry. And I remember I showed one of them my first chapter of my manuscript, and they went, "This is just a waste of your time." They're like,
wow.
they're like, "You are a much better poet." And I was like, "Thank you. I was aware of it before, but now I'm hyper aware of it."
Yeah.
So I had the first couple chapters went through a fiction workshop class that I took through my English department here, but besides from those first two chapters being critiqued by my peers, for the most part, it was on lock.
Okay, so wait a minute.
So it's crazy now.
Some people, when they heard a professor say that, they could just say, "Okay, that's it. I'm not going to do this."
I'm
but
done.
You had the drive to continue to do this, and I always find that interesting. How do you? I mean, is it just born in you that you have this drive that I'm going to complete this? I don't care what this person says.
I don't think it's so much a born in gene as it is just resilience. Like it's a part of the industry, because I do have a few poetry publications, and just getting those first 5 poetry publications, hundreds of rejections. And so you have to accept getting in that not your work isn't going to be for everyone. And I say that with I have friends who have come to me and been like, "I haven't read your novel yet." I'm like, "That's fine. Mm-hmm. It's Southern Gothic spies. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. Just like not everyone likes butternut squash. Not everyone is going to like your Southern Gothic spy thriller."
No, that's good to hear. I think that's very good to hear, because I think sometimes people, even though in reality you should know that not everyone's going to like your work, that's good to know. Don't take things personally and keep moving on.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, of course, there is the part of you where you hear it and you're like, "Oh, that took a piece of my heart." But at the end of the day, you just got to build yourself back up and keep going. I'd say I was fortunate in that I already was working on another publication when Seven Sided Spy came out. So even when I would get those bad reviews, I'd be like, "All right, but whatever. I have 1,000 words to write tonight. I can't even look at that right now."
Right. Well, it's probably better to get a negative review or, "Gee, that doesn't even interest me," than a positive review that's fake, right? Than someone saying, "Oh, yeah. I loved your novel," and really they didn't.
Well, I was very upfront with my family and friends. I'm like, if you choose to review, don't think I'm gonna freak out. It was just one of those things where someone, a friend of mine, was like, "I don't know if I should post this review, Hannah. It's only 3 stars. I don't want you to take it personally." I'm like, 3 stars is actually a really good.
Sure.
3 stars is still good.
Right,
I'm not gonna snuff my nose at that. Please post it.
Yeah.
But no. Absolutely, especially because you can usually tell when someone hasn't actually read the book from the way that they talk about it. I'm like, you read the back cover, I see. Clever of you.
Okay. So what about the writing process? And you have it written. Do you get a professional editor to edit it, or what was your process?
So my process for Seven Sided Spy was to agonize over it endlessly and basically only show it to 2 people. And when anyone would ask about it, I'd shut down and be like, "No, you can't read it." I didn't do a professional editor only because it was so much money. I mean, editing is one of those things where you get what you pay for. And if you wanted something really high quality and top notch, odds were I was going to be shelling out a lot of money that my broke college ass didn't have. Yeah. So I did my best skimming, scanning. I did a lot of reading it aloud and listening back over to it. And it was fortunate enough to be picked up by an independent press who did have editing rounds and a lot of different people looking at it to make sure it was in top quality when it went to press. Wonderful. Which I am incredibly thankful for.
Yeah. So how did that happen?
A Twitter pitch contest, ironically. This is one of my, like,
Ah.
it's just this crazy thing that I didn't even know was happening at the time, but it was showing up on my Twitter feed. Everyone was tagging things, hashtag dark pit. And I'm like, what is dark pit? That's what? Why does this have to do with your, like, fangirl meets Book of Lost things crossover? I don't understand. And then it was this competition where people were pitching their dark thrillers or sci-fis or fantasies, and agents were going through and liking pitches, and if they liked it, you submitted to them and you got priority, essentially.
Wow.
That's a pretty cool contest.
It is, and they happen all the time. There's actually one happening this Valentine's Day called Kiss Pit, and it's all romance agents who represent basically Harlequin, Casablanca, I'd say the whole 9 yards. And so it's happening all the time, and that's how my press actually tends to curate their authors, is through unsolicited submissions and Twitter pitch contests.
And how do you find out about Twitter pitch contests?
So honestly, I would say going through the Twitter, I would say always looking for writing resources. There's one really good Twitter called Free Writing Events, and they have a master calendar that has all of the Twitter pitch competitions, all of the short story competitions going on. It's just this amazing resource that this one person runs for free, which like blows my mind.
Wow. Yeah.
Basically everything is behind a paywall, and this is just totally open source. And if you have an event that you're running, you can add to it. It's really awesome. And so it's just a lot of research and digging. But I mean, once you find one, you can easily uncover the rest of them. So like I said, DV Pit is a good one. PB Madness, which is picture books. They're fun too. Like I don't write romance and I don't write picture books, but I love going through the tags on that day to just see what people are working on and what's popular right now and what got 20 agent likes, because you're learning from it and you're also having a blast.
Sure, yeah.
Well, that sounds like a great resource. Thank
Thank
you for
you.
telling our audience about that. I think that's huge.
That is really cool. Okay, so then you pitch on Twitter, and they say they're interested. What happens next?
So then you go through, like you would with any other agent, you read their submission guidelines as closely as possible, and then you follow them to a T, and then you submit. And for me, I would say it probably took 2 months for me to hear anything back, but when they got back, they were like, "Hi, we liked your project. Here's what you would need to change." And I'm like, sold. And so within like a day, I had a contract. And I'm like,
wow.
Well, one day?
I'm not going to complain.
That's wonderful. Congratulations.
Oh my gosh,
Thank
one
you.
day.
It was amazing. Yeah, no, it was like 11:30 at night, my time too. I'm like, what? They're up so late and they're working, both of them. It was like an editor and then like the runner of the press. And I'm like, they're in such good communication. I wanted to go to bed, but I'm so glad I didn't.
So what did you have control over the cover?
I had, so Nine Star Press is pretty awesome in that they let you have input. I would say I said, I like the mountains. I like these aspects. Here are some of the general themes. And then from there, they send it to Natasha Snow, who has done both of the covers for my projects that I've done. And she rocks it out of the park.
Great.
You definitely get more input at a press like Nine Star Press than you would at one of the Big Ten, for sure.
Okay. And you've been happy with your relationship with them?
Oh, yeah. They are such a fantastic group of people. I would say super understanding, and it's just been an amazing experience.
And do they help with marketing?
Oh, yes. I would say they do blitzes, which is this, once again, it's another thing about the publishing industry that I had no idea about, but like book bloggers are huge right now. And so they do blitzes where you go on like 10 to 30 blogs on like your release day, and they basically put it everywhere.
Wow.
And it gives you this huge bump. They, of course, have their website. They do deals every month. They have an e-list, e-blast list. And then I also did some stuff on my end where I would query reviewers and be like, would you be interested in taking an arc? They just recently started putting stuff on NetGalley, and that has had a huge impact on the amount of reviewers we've gotten.
Well, now I want to know what NetGalley is. But before that, you said you did a blitz where you were on blogs. Now, would that be you were interviewed on a blog, or you did a guest post on a blog?
So with blitzes, it's more of a spotlight. Like they have your cover, they have your excerpt, they have your information, and they just blast it everywhere. The blog tour that I had built through emailing and querying, those were a bunch of guest posts, a bunch of interviews, and reviews as well. Mm-hmm. And those were super fun. It's always, that's half the fun, is going through their blog, seeing what their blog style is like, and being like, what fits in here, what would do well. And it's a fun puzzle. I would say I have my novella coming out in March, and I just got the arcs for those. So now I'm going through and picking out what guest posts I'm doing. And one of the bloggers does like wine, or it's wines and reads, I think, or something along those lines. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I could write about wine.
It sounds a little time consuming writing a guest blog. You just approach them and say, hey, I'm interested in writing, and if you accept me, can you release it on the day that my book is being released?
So I have a general query letter where I'm like, hi, my name is Hannah. This is what I'm about. This is my project. I noticed that you reviewed X or Y similar title. Would you be interested in taking an arc? And then I usually have at the end, you probably get a lot of these. If you don't have time to commit to a full review, would you be interested in possibly doing an interview or a guest post? And I mean, a lot of the time they just say yes, depending on the project, or sometimes it's like a no, and that's fine too, I would say. And sometimes it's like, no, I won't review, but yes, I'd love to have you as a guest post. And so it is a lot of work. I would say I am a spreadsheet mastermind at this point, but it's been amazing. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
When you approached people about guest blogging, did you pick the topic?
So guest blogging is this fun little thing. Like I said, I like to try and taste what they put on their blog, but I do have my go-tos, what is it like being a writer? What is it like doing a Twitter pitch contest? And then I do a lot of what is it like being a queer writer and what is it like being a disabled writer, with the big movement towards like own voices, stories, and representation. That's something I've been a huge advocate for, is normalizing illness, normalizing sexuality, accepting that those things are intersectional. It's been huge.
Mm-hmm.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. I would say I identify as queer. I would say my press that I publish through is exclusively publishing queer stories and queer narratives, which is fantastic. And then I also have ulcerative colitis, which is a chronic illness in which the GI tract is constantly inflamed, and it requires me to be on a lot of medication, and it really controlled my life for a while. And so that's one thing I write about quite a bit, especially with Seven-Sided Spy, because I was writing this project right as I was diagnosed with this life-changing illness. And so the two are forever intertwined for me. Sure. And I think normalizing it is incredibly important. I would say it is a lot of discipline. I'll be honest. There are days where I really wish I could just go home and watch TV, but I really treat it like a job. I come home from, so STEM Read is an outreach organization through Northern Illinois University. So it is your traditional 9-to-5 job.
Okay.
And so I go to that, and then I come home and I go, I can't move from this seat until I have 500 words.
Wow.
And then I get to go and I can cook dinner and do whatever I need to. And then I have to go back and I have to do those second 500 words. And I aim for 1,000 a night. I don't always hit it. Some nights, trashy reality television is on, and I'd much rather watch that rather than do that second half. But so long as I'm writing every day, even if it's just a little, I feel like I'm accomplishing something.
Okay.
Well, it seems like it'd be a good time to ask you about advice you have for other people who are writing books.
I'm a big proponent of sitting down and actually writing. I, for a very long time, talked about how much I love to write, but I never really wrote. I fan casted my imaginary film options and
Fun.
drew covers and everything, and I never actually took the time to sit down and go, I know, exactly. It was fun, but I had wasted so much time in retrospect. If you want to be a writer, you've got to write. Mm-hmm. That's the only way to get better, is to practice. And so even if you're writing 500 words that you hate and you think you're going to delete, you've worked that day and you have paid your dues and you are reaching towards that goal of improvement. And so
excellent.
That's the biggest advice I can give, is to actually do it.
I think you put it very well.
Right.
Very, very well. Thank you.
And 500 words, it doesn't sound like a crazy amount, 500 words in a day.
Exactly. It's 3 Twitter posts.
Well, I like how you said that even if you're going to delete it, it's okay. At least you were practicing. At least you felt like you accomplished something. And I think that's important too, because I think also sometimes people get so focused, this has to be perfect. But no, you can play around with this and relax, and maybe you learn more by being more relaxed. By experimenting. So thank you for that advice also.
Thank you. I love the way you guys put it, experimenting.
Yeah.
There's this author, Mike Mullen. He wrote the Asphalt trilogy, and he says first draft should be as undisciplined as possible. And I am so aggressively for that. I think if you write only with intent to publish and have each verse be completely perfect your first go, I would never get a book done. That's my personal practice, but I would never, ever move past that first page, because I would just constantly be revising. And so I think you have to write knowing that things will be deleted, because otherwise you'll probably paralyze yourself with the anxiety of, I have to make this one page perfect and every word I choose has to matter. And I mean, that's what editing is for. That's what editors are for.
Yeah, that's good too, because there's other people who can help you and who maybe know things a little more than you do. You're the creative person, but maybe someone else who's the editor. And that kind of makes you free up your responsibility, get some of that, the world's not on your shoulders anymore by thinking that way.
With 9 Star Press, they published your book. Do they get the copies printed and send them to you so that you can use them at book signings? Or is the book just available on Amazon? Or how does the distribution work?
So distribution is all done through Ingram, which is fantastic because that means that the books are returnable at commercial retailers. So in my case, I had a book launch. It was a photo finish with these books getting here on time. But so I placed an order through 9 Star Press, so I got the publisher discount, and they got them through Ingram. So I said I need 55 copies, and then the press looks at Ingram and goes, we need 55 copies, and then Ingram ships them to me, and I was able to sell them for my own profit. However, they also post them on Amazon. You can get it through the 9 Star Press website. You can get it through IndieBound. There's all the internet avenues, and then there's also the personal ordering. And then if you go to a retailer that has already an established relationship with Ingram, which most commercial retailers will, they can order through Ingram. And so when I did an event with Stacey Kate at Barnes & Noble, all the Barnes & Noble people had to go to their computer, hit 30 copies of Seven-Sided Spy, and it showed up in their store in a week.
Wow, that is really cool.
So what marketing aspect do you like the most, and what works the best for you?
For me, I definitely blog touring and the getting those reviews out was definitely the most successful in that it pushed me in Amazon sales, it pushed me in Goodreads rankings, it put me on lists. I cannot stress how important it is to have a good relationship with book bloggers and active readers who are going to tell their friends and everything. And also, I like to say the secret to a successful book launch is a giant family. I would say we sold out. However, I am the daughter of one of 12, I would say, and I have 25 cousins. So
that's fun. It's a big family.
Yeah, I would say we sold out, but believe me when I say almost every Carmack in the world has a copy now.
That's nice of them.
I'd say social media is what got me my contract, so I shouldn't snub it and leave it out.
Okay, right. Yeah, right. Twitter. Yeah.
Twitter's essential, as they say. It's been a blast, although I have had to kind of stop looking at the analytics. Like, I shouldn't feel stressed when I go onto Facebook, and I was getting that way for a while. Like, oh, geez, what's my post insights look like? But post when you have something to say. Don't fill the void with unnecessary noise unless you think you should. It's your business, and you're going to run it exactly how you want, and your readers will appreciate that authenticity.
Great advice again.
Yeah. So then I read that you have another book that's just about ready to be published.
Yes, I would say that is Take Your Medicine. It is a 25,000-word novella that is going to be ebook only, but I am so flippin' excited for it. It is a Southern Gothic retelling of Alice in Wonderland that focuses on a young girl with vasovagal syncope, which is a fainting disorder. So vasovagal is a huge range of diseases, but in my case, the character Al, which is Alice, has just generalized vasovagal and strong emotions and intense situations. Usually, if it's high emotion, it can cause high bodily stress and usually can cause someone to pass out. Lots of people get it, you walk in, someone's birthing a baby, hit the ground. In this case, it's got broken up with, I'm going to smack the ground.
Okay.
It's going through the teenage coming of age while also dealing with an illness that is completely out of your control.
Which is scary.
Yeah.
Scary, but also normal. I would say it is a cute little sweet contemporary YA, and it's not, her illness is not a tragedy. And she isn't just her illness.
Yes, and I can, in your voice, you sound so positive, so enthusiastic, and I'm sure it's a great book. It's just fun to hear you speak with your enthusiasm. I just thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time.
What's a good way for our listeners to get in touch with you?
I'd say my website is as basic as they come, www.hannahcarmack.com, and through there I have a contact link. I'm also on all of the usual youth social medias, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I'm super, super down to earth. I'm always down to talk to aspiring writers. So if you need anyone to be your cheerleader, hit me up and I'll cheer from the sidelines.
Oh, that's very nice. Thank you.
Yes, it's been a wonderful time talking to you, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Author Inside You podcast.
And if you get a chance, stop over at Apple Podcasts and leave us a ratings or review.
This will make it easier for other people to find our podcast.
And if you have any questions or suggestions on who we can interview on our next podcast, please drop us a line. Our email can be found on theauthorInsideYou.com.
Or you can find us on Facebook also.
Until next time.
Right on.
Thank you for listening to the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.